Good afternoon, everyone. It's Gary Sly and the Legacy of Handmade Objects. As you can see, I'm back home this week after my trip to Albuquerque and Santa Fe and Taos and all those wonderful areas. I am going to end today's video with another little clip from some time I spent there, but I want to muse a little bit. I want to dream a little bit this afternoon before we get started. It's October the 13th, federal holiday today, so no mail or anything like that, but otherwise people seem to be zipping up and down the road as normal. As I mentioned, one of the things that I did when I was out in New Mexico is go back to a place that really gave me a lot of inspiration when I was there the first time. There's a cooperative there called the Espanola Valley Fiber Arts Center. And if you're ever in the vicinity of Santa Fe or Taos, you should definitely go out and see them. They're only open, I think, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, something like that. And it is a true cooperative. People pay membership fee, and that's how they support it. Basically, as I understand it from when I visited there 3 or 4 years ago, there was a building that nobody was using. It's a big, really nice, serviceable building, but obviously not everything was occupied. And they were able to get it for a very reasonable rent. Probably one of those deals of like $1 a year or something like that if they would maintain it and do whatever needs to be done to make it serviceable. And it has become a real haven for all kinds of fiber there. Now, when I visited 3 or 4 years ago, they had a tiny little retail shop in the front. And of course, the hope was that by selling products there and taking a portion of the proceeds from that, that would help to support the center. Obviously, that has worked out well because as you will see in the video, there's a huge section in the front now that is dedicated to all sorts of wonderful fiber, artwork, yarns, even looms. There's a row of like 7 or 8 floor looms that are for sale there. And if my guess is correct, they probably take a portion of the proceeds of all of those sales in order to run the place. So you've got a whole passel of volunteers, people who have joined as part of the cooperative, and they of course are free to come in and use looms and carders and spinning wheels and the dyeing room and felting areas and screen printing and sewing machines and a whole variety of things that are there. But also one of their real missions is education. I know the last time I was there was a group of Girl Scouts in the back learning how to weave. This time there were stacks and stacks of little rigid heddle looms, just simple little wooden pieces. Somebody had done the knobs and all the connecting pieces on a computer generated situation where they just created those, so the cost there was fairly minimal. And what they do is they have, looked to me like maybe 4 dozen of those little rigid heddle looms there, and they invite art teachers from the various schools around to come in. They bring them in on the weekends and they teach them how to weave, and then they donate those rigid heddle looms to those schools. So they're able to take them back and share their enthusiasm for fiber and weaving. Now, I will say, as kind of one little aside here, that part of New Mexico, because of the Native American influence, because of the weavers amongst the Navajo and also amongst the Pueblo people there, means that that is a weaving culture. There's a lot of people out there who know how to weave, and there's a lot of interest in it. But I feel like there's a lot of interest in it anywhere we go. There are weavers guilds flourishing all over the country. I see a real resurgence in people wanting to learn how to spin, how to dye. Felting has become a really popular part of handwork. And so I think there's a lot of interest everywhere. And when I was there 3 or 4 years ago, I came back just on fire to open something like that here in Central Florida. Now, you hear me chuckle on the video and say that hasn't happened yet. But it's still part of sort of my dreamscape there. Wouldn't it be really cool if we could find a building like that here, and bring in folks from all different fiber perspectives. And you know, it wouldn't have to be limited to weaving, spinning, those areas. It could also be stitching. It could also be quilting. There's just so much going on in the fiber world that if we needed more bodies, we needed more volunteers, we needed more resources, we could certainly open it up that way. So don't be surprised if you hear me doing some musing and some thinking as I'm trying to figure out what the future means for me here in Leesburg, Florida. But there's another thing I want to mention, and this is kind of a challenge. It's something that I talk about in my TED Talk, which I did a couple years ago. It's something that I really try to drive home a lot as I am interacting with people here in the shop and looking for resources around us. We need to be teaching. All of us need to find ways to teach the things that we know to others. Teaching is not just for professionals who stand up in front of a group and who lecture or do videos or whatever it may be. If we want the wonderful handicrafts that we are passionate about and that we love to survive, we've got to teach them. We've got to find young people who are enthusiastic about them. And you know what I've found, when young people come in my shop and they see something and I see their eyes light up, it may be only 1 out of 10, 1 out of 20, it may not be a whole lot, but I can tell those are folks, boys and girls, who, if they were given the proper instruction and resources, would become just as passionate about this stuff as we are. There's one little boy, I haven't seen him in a while. I don't think he's even been in my new shop yet. But he saves his nickels and his quarters. And he's part of a family that has some challenges. There's 1 or 2 children that has some handicapping issues and things like that. So really nickels and quarters are pretty precious to him. But he brings them in and he buys multiple colored yarns and plastic needles and just all kinds of things because he is drawn to working with his hands and to working with fibers. And there are children and there are young adults all around us who feel the same way, but they don't get to see it done very much anymore. They don't recognize what it is they're watching. And all it takes is that little human spark, that little attention from somebody. Now, of course, they know how to go on YouTube then and expand their horizons and do all sorts of things that we never thought about doing. But it still, I believe, takes that human touch and that interest in teaching that we could all share. Now, think about this as a little bit of a challenge. What part of handwork are you most passionate about? And that could vary, as I've mentioned before in other videos, that could vary by the time of your life, by how much activities you have going on around you, by personality. There's just all kinds of varieties. There's cross stitch, there's needlepoint, there's knitting, there's crochet, there's weaving, spinning, dyeing, felting. I mean, we could go on with the list, macrame, whatever. Have you ever taught anybody else to do what you are passionate about? Have you ever found somebody who expressed an interest in what it is that you love, and have you ever taught them the skills that you've learned? Because you know, nobody else is going to do that. If we really do want young people to carry forward with these handcrafts that have been passed down to us through generations, you and I are the ones that are going to have to do that. Now, let's say you are not in a position where you run into young people very often. Well, you know, there are plenty of places where young people do go. Your local shops probably see young people from time to time. They're hesitant to come in. They're hesitant to ask questions. They don't want somebody bossing them around, telling them what to do. But there are ways to find those people who are interested and excited about what we love. it doesn't always have to be a younger person. I've had older adults come in here who were really looking for something new, something that they could use to make them feel better about themselves, to be creative. So it may very well be that we would find a colleague, somebody the same age as us, to teach. But I would challenge you to look for opportunities to teach whatever it is you're passionate about. And that doesn't necessarily always even mean starting from the beginning and showing how to make an X with threads. It can be as much as passing along helpful tips and ideas that somebody shared with you that you've never seen written down anywhere, but just make good sense. So I'm going to keep dreaming. I'm going to keep thinking about a Central Florida fiber cooperative, and hope that maybe some way, somehow, the resources will come together and we'll see something like that happen, and we'll see this become a center for handwork and those kind of things. But even if that doesn't happen, my challenge to myself and to you is for us to go and try to teach these crafts that we're so passionate about. And let's find a way to pass it along to the next generations coming, because they're going to need these resources. They're going to need ways to slow their lives down and create and make sense of the world around them. It's not a fun place out there some days. It's not a good environment for people, young people growing up always. And we need to help provide some opportunities for them to find peace and comfort. So that's me for today. I'll shut up. You're going to see my little video outside of the Fiber Center, and then you're going to see me visiting the Espanola Valley Fiber Center. Have a great week. This is Gary Sly and the Legacy of Handmade Objects. Good morning, guys. It's Gary Sly and the Legacy of Handmade Objects. I am today in New Mexico. Some of you who follow my channel might have seen me in Santa Fe last week. I'm at the Espanola Valley Fiber Arts Center. It's this wonderful place, which is a co-op and a place for weavers and spinners and felters and just all kinds of fun stuff. I'm going to go in and walk around and see what's going on today, but just wanted to give you a little intro before I head in. I actually visited this place about 3 years ago and came back to Central Florida all excited about starting a place like this in Leesburg. It hasn't happened yet, but that doesn't mean dreams don't sometimes come true. It's just a wonderful concept. They took a huge building that wasn't being used for anything else, and they repurposed it, moved in. You'll see when I go in, there's space for looms and spinning wheels and stitchers corners and just about everything one can imagine. And it's a co-op, so people join, and their dues help to support it and help make this a thriving kind of place. So I'm going to stop talking and walk inside. I'll see you there. So as I mentioned, this is a tremendous place for resources. You've got some art on display and also things for sale. This natural dyed yarns will catch just about anybody's attention. I did learn about culture embroidery in this part of New Mexico when I was here some years back. I'll talk to you about a little bit about that sometime. I've actually still got some kits in the shop. But you can see it's a retail space in part. So there's all kinds of cool stuff there. There's some roving and some raw wool, and looks like mohair fleece mostly is what they have, but here's some dyed stuff. Very similar to what you see in my shop, but obviously on a larger scale. Look at all the spinning wheels, and you have looms for sale here. Good prices, actually. $250 or best offer there. Everywhere you turn, there's something new to look at. It kind of reminds me of my place, but just a little less crowded, which speaks well. Look at the big counterbalance loom up in the front here. And there's a quilt in the corner. So there's room for all fiber here. You've got rugs and quilts. I do think this front area is mostly retail. So I'll kind of wander through again, but maybe not spend too much extra time here. I want to go back in the back and highlight some of the teaching area that's part of the whole co-op idea. Lots of fun yarns. I know they have a library in the back, but it looks like they also have books for sale. So back here, you can see where they do classes. The last time I visited here, they had a 4-H group here, and there were young people in here learning how to weave. We've got a group doing busy stuff here today, so just kind of show off what's happening all around. Think about having a space this large to put this many looms in one place. As I recall, when I was here before, people can rent the looms too. Is that still true, Holly?
People can rent the looms.
Yeah, so it gives you an opportunity if you don't have space for a large loom in your own home to come in and spend time.
We have drum carders that we can lend. We have pickers.
Pickers, cool. This is my new friend Holly. She's
Hello.
what are you doing? Some plying, spinning and plying.
Spinning merino.
All right. I almost ran into a sheep a couple days ago when I was driving.
Oh,
He ducked and I ducked, and we got out of each other's way. Look here. Here's a whole dyeing room. Let me see if it's. Yeah, I don't need to. Got a whole room just for dyeing, folks. It really probably was just an industrial kitchen at some point, and they use it now for textiles. The New Mexico Fiber Arts Trail is a really fun phenomenon here in New Mexico. This really is very much a weaver and weaving and fiber culture. So Holly was telling me these little looms, these little rigid heddles in the back are actually made and given to art teachers in local schools, and they have a training class for those teachers where they come in and learn how to weave, and then they get to take those looms back to their classrooms and teach weaving in the classroom. Isn't that the coolest thing? Here, look at that big old picker there. I have one of these in my shop too. I guess they got that tied down. There's a big drum carder there. Ooh, here's some weaving going on. Look at that little tapestry piece that somebody's doing there. This is more of a storage area, but you can see there's also some active weaving going on back here. And Holly was also telling me they just received an estate from a weaver. So they've been looking for ways to integrate that. Got tons of sewing machines back here in the corner. I think she said this is screen printing back here, and then this other space, yeah, see there's a screen printer over there, and then you got some space for felting back here, and again another nice sink and a washer and some of the things you're going to need for that. So isn't this the coolest place you've ever seen? The Espanola Valley Fiber Arts Center in Espanola, New Mexico.